We witnessed a historic final Sunday as Coco Gauff and Valentin Vacherot capped off record-breaking title runs in Wuhan and Shanghai. I'll of course break down their wins and what they mean for the WTA and ATP tours. Ni hao, my name is Christian Bass-Knight and welcome to Christian's Court, where I cover tennis from all angles. If you haven't yet already, make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell so you are notified whenever I post more updates as the season winds down to a close. So Coco Gauff, yes, she scored her third career WTA 1000 title and 11th tour title overall when she defeated compatriot and former doubles partner Jessica Pegula 6-4, 7-5 in the Wuhan Championship. Gauff is the first woman to win Wuhan without dropping a set in the tournament's history, and she's also the first American woman to win this title since Venus Williams did it a decade earlier in 2015. And then also, perhaps most impressively, is that Gauff is the only woman, the first and only woman, to win her first 9 WTA hardcourt finals. So exceptional. Coco had an excellent tournament in Wuhan from start to finish, but I think she saved her best tennis for this final, and it was truly a masterful performance from the world number 3. She started with a similar strategy that she employed against Jasmine Paolini in the semifinals, which was to use a lot of higher and spinnier forehands to keep her opponents off bay and keep them from attacking. And then whenever she saw the opportunity, she injected either her forehand or her backhand with pace whenever, her opponent provided her a shorter or easier ball. And I felt that Pegula had a harder time of stepping up and penetrating her shots through the court compared to against Sabalenka in the semifinals because of the variety and different spins that Coco employed. And I also think that Pegula wasn't able to have as much success coming forward to the net and hitting drop shots because Gauff is just faster than Sabalenka, and it was just harder for the American to pull off those type of shots. Coco got out to a great start. She had 1-4 love 30 against Pegula, but around this time, her forehand started to break down. Meanwhile, Pegula, she started improving her serving quality, and JPEG got it back to 4 apiece, and she actually had a decent opportunity to serve for the opening set. She did net a sitter backhand approach shot at deuce in this game to let Gauff off the hook. And Coco, I think she just mainly wore down Pegula in the next game to break and clinch the opening set. She extended the rallies and made things a lot more physical, which was smart considering Pegula had played 8 straight 3-setters heading into this final. And it looked like Jessica would be heading to her 9th straight deciding set match. She jumped out to a 3-love double break lead in the second set, partly thanks due to Coco hitting 5 double faults in her first 2 service games of the second set. But Gauff, she got it back to 3-all, but then Jessica broke again and served for the second set at 5-4. But credit to Coco for elevating her level a notch higher to break at love when Pegula tried to serve for the second set. And I think around this time, Jessica hit a wall. Understandably so. Again, she's played a lot of tennis, and got to give props to Pegula, first of all, for an outstanding Asian swing. All the 3-set matches she played, I thought she would lose opening round in Wuhan here, but a tremendous effort to not only win 4 matches, but reach the finals, beating Sabalenka in the semifinals, an epic match in itself. So again, clap it up to Pegula for a very strong Asian swing, and she for sure made up for the points that she lost from failing to defend the finals and title points from the U.S. North American hardcourt summer swing. Now on to Coco, gotta give her full props, and we really saw her progression in her trying to become more of a complete player in Beijing and Wuhan. The biggest takeaway to me is that Coco played a little bit more in these tournaments like how she did on clay, especially in Wuhan. And of course, clay is where she had her most success this year. I noticed in Beijing, she first started incorporating a little bit more drop shots into her repertoire, but she took it up another notch in Wuhan, coming forward a little bit more. And she also, again, of course, was using heavier spinning forehands to change the tempo, and especially in the last couple of matches in the semifinal and in the final. And I think the Anisimova Beijing loss truly helped her. And I literally said in my video when she lost to Anisimova that she needs to go back to playing like how she did a little bit more in 2023, using more variety and relying honestly more on her athleticism. Her court coverage is simply unparalleled, and she relied a bit too much, I think, on her bigger hitting style from the ground recently, especially on hard courts, and just abandoned the variety. And on the clay, Coco does typically mix up things from the ground a little bit more, which makes sense because that type of game style naturally works better on the surface, which is more higher bouncing. I think a big improvement again is Gauff's return. She's not going for it too much and not gifting opponents a lot of return misses. She's hitting a lot of high percentage yet still high quality returns that keeps her opponents from both attacking but also sets herself up in great position to gain the upper hand soon after making that return. And then above all, just making the return gives herself a fighting shot to then build up the points from the ground like she did beautifully throughout this tournament. And then with the serve, of course, she wasn't really going for bombs and big first serves throughout this tournament. She had a few aces here and there, but she mainly aimed for higher percentage first serves, which of course cut down on the double faults. She still had the double faults come in bunches at times, but it wasn't enough to derail her from obviously getting these wins. And the double faults were setting Coco back so much, thinking back to the summer hard court swing and the grass. And she wasn't getting too much of a return from trying to blast big first serves because, again, the double faults would cancel out those big first serves where she was winning free or easy points. And she might use this play again in Riyadh for the WTA finals. I think it still might be good enough for her to get her the title and defend her title. Although, if an opponent has a crazy good return day and just red lines like we saw with Anisimova in Beijing, that could spell trouble, and Coco might eventually just be forced to go for a little bit more on her first serve. But I think if Coco develops that first serve into becoming more of a big weapon where she consistently wins free points and gets herself in position to finish off points more easily, then I think she'll be very dangerous come 2026. It's interesting too because Coco's 2025 season honestly is very similar to last year, to where, she had a solid clay swing and she peaked around this time, of course, the Asian swing. And Coco now has the best record among the top women in China. She's now 22-3, which is exceptional. And I do think her physical fitness helps her a lot during this time because around this time, a lot of the players are tired, whereas Coco, I'm sure she's still tired too, but still, she's probably the best athlete that we have right now on the women's tour. So she's going to be fine and outlast a lot of opponents. And also, I think it's a mental thing because she said in her championship acceptance speech that one of her coaches, J.C. Farrell, actually wanted her to skip the entire Asian swing after the U.S. Open. And I think maybe that was due to just the pressure of the service woes weighed on Coco throughout the U.S. Open, and maybe they just wanted to do a reset mentally and technically with her game. But I think, of course, no surprise, she plays better when the expectations are lower. And she even said herself that she wanted to prove her coach wrong. And so she wasn't coming into this one feeling a lot of pressure. Not to mention, Gauff has said previously that she views the Asian swing as more of a training block for the Australian Open. So she doesn't really put as much stock into it. I am interested to see whether Coco can still employ this type of winning strategy of, using more variety, falling back on her athleticism at times, but still finishing points whenever she needs to and whenever she seeks opportunities when the pressure ramps up again, assuming when the Australian Open rolls around. I also am excited to see just how she does for the WTA finals and if she can defend her title. And 2 spots are up for grabs remaining, and Mira Andreeva, Jasmine Paolini, and Elena Rybakina are still in the hunt. Ekaterina Alexandrova has an outside shot if she somehow wins both Ningbo and Tokyo. Now, looking at the penultimate ATP 1000 in Shanghai, Valentin Vacherot won the cousin clash, defeating Arthur Rinderknech 4-6, 6-3, 6-3. The 204th ranked man from Monaco makes history as the lowest ranked ATP 1000 champion in history. And he started the tournament, of course, outside the top 200. Now he would be 40 in the world come Monday. So exceptional. And this was a pretty good final. The first 2 sets were okay, decent quality. Rinderknech clearly outplayed his younger cousin in the opener. He hit 7 more winners to 2 fewer unforced errors. And he was also dominant on serve in the opening set. But in the second set, Valentin upped his service level and he won 76% of first serve points and 78% of second serve points, which was quite shocking to see. And the deciding set was definitely the most entertaining, even though it was a 6-3. And really credit to Rinderknech for fighting and making it as competitive as it was, because this honestly could have been a 6-love win, deciding set win for Vacherot. I say that because Arthur saved triple break points serving down love 2, and he saved 4 total break points in the 1-3 service game. Ultimately, though, Arthur just hit a little bit of a physical wall while his younger cousin had more left in the tank and was just a better player in the end. I gotta talk about that touching moment in the trophy ceremony where Arthur said 2 cousins are stronger than 1, and then they both got emotional. And I think just overall the story is beautiful because the fact that they both had their best career tournaments and faced off against one another in the final is phenomenal and unbelievable. And credit to Arthur, by the way, on a great week. He beat 4 top 20 players in a row and rises to a career high of 28 in the world. Now, Valentin, I'm shocked by this win for so many reasons. First, I'm shocked that he didn't really show much nerve throughout this tournament, considering how he hadn't had a lot of experience at this level, and especially against Novak in the semifinals. He had moments where it looked like Novak might take advantage, but he saved all but one break point that he faced in that match. And then he had to win 9 matches in a row, including qualifying. 6 of those matches went to 3 sets. So I'm wondering, how in the world did he not hit a physical wall himself and get fatigued? Like, I'm speechless. And this really might be like the story of the year. I think maybe it might be behind Alcaraz defeating Sinner, saving all those match points in the finals, but I think it's top 2 for sure. And it's quite something because originally Valentin was about 22 spots from making the qualies cut. And of course, he got in as an alternate in the qualifying draw. And according to French journalist Quentin Moinet, Valentin DM'd a friend about 6 weeks before the start of Shanghai. He said, "I'm going to go take my chance in Shanghai qualies because a sick run can come any second." And that's such a really iconic text thread because it shows that Valentin had a premonition that this run would happen. And, well, I don't know if he knew he would go to the title. He probably thought, maybe I can make the round of 16 of the quarterfinals, but still, like, it just feels like this was it was literally written in the stars. Like, it was destiny. And I feel like this run, honestly, as great as it is, still deserves a little bit more shine. And maybe that's because a lot of casual tennis fans are still suffering from tennis fatigue, which is understandable because tennis is such a grinding sport to even watch and cover. But I still hope that Valentin will get on more people's radars now because this is exceptional. Now, I'm wondering whether this will be a one and done moment for Valentin or if he can, go on another run at a big tournament later on in his career. He has a pretty complete game. I think he has a strong serve, solid forehand, and his backhand, I think, is above average compared to the rest of the men on tour. But he could have been peaking. This could have just been a peaking tournament for him in these 12 days. He had just lost to the world number 311 his previous tournament, and he had just 2 top 50 wins before Shanghai. So I think this could maybe be a Aslan Karatsev type of thing where he has a couple strong showings in the next 12 months to crack the top 30 or maybe top 25. But I will be surprised if he won or went deep and made another 1,000 final, to be honest. But with how the men's tour is right now, why not? Alcaraz and Sinner, they clearly run things. And yes, the humid conditions were a lot in Shanghai, but this tournament perhaps, to me, showed that Novak he might not have it anymore at the high-level 1,000 tournaments. Even in best of 3, that could be too much for him. And I wonder if this event perhaps has any impact on his retirement plans because on paper, you would have thought he was a shoo-in to lift the trophy, but he didn't even make the final. I saw some people say that the ATP is looking more like the WTA with, how we have more of these surprise runs on the men's side, I guess. But you really can't even say this anymore because the women are very consistent at the top. There are hardly any sneaks winning big titles on the women's tour nowadays. Maybe the WTA of 5 years ago or so where we had more surprise champions, but now that narrative is tired. You can't say that. The ATP is its own thing now. Now, I don't think the rest of the guys aside from Alcaraz and Sinner are just trash because they're not. We are at the end of the season and a lot of these guys are either hurt or coming back from injury. So we'll see what Paris brings, especially if somehow Alcaraz and Sinner don't make the finals. But still, I think we needed a week like this. This was pretty special. This was a special week. And the fact that this was a 1,000 final in itself is wild. This easily could have been a first round qualies match if it were like a 12-day 1,000 tournament. And that, again, is the beauty of a 12-day or a longer 1,000 event. I know a lot of us don't care for them because it can drag on, but we would have never had a story like Vacherot's at all if it weren't for this type of format. So that's a positive of it. But yeah, congratulations to both Valentin and Coco for 2 incredible title runs. That is all I have for this video. Let me know your thoughts on Coco's triumph and whether you think that she will repeat in Riyadh, as well as Valentin's win and whether you think that he is here to stay. I think he eventually will crack the top 30, considering how he has little to no points to defend for next year, for the next 12 months. But the bigger question is, can he crack top 20 or even top 15 or higher? I think top 25 is where his ceiling will be, but we'll see. Anyways, again, make sure you all subscribe and click that notification bell so you are notified whenever I post my next video, which might be me ranking the 10 WTA 1000 title runs for the season. So I know my video of that last year caused quite a bit of drama, so I might make that a members only video because I don't feel like dealing with it, but I don't know, we'll see. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching and for your support, and I will see you all next time here on Christian's Court.